What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Down Once More. Matt here, and this week's episode is all about the Moulin Rouge. So there will be some other podcast stuff at the end, but we're going to dive right into it. I saw the North American tour of the musical of Moulin Rouge, and that's what we're primarily going to be reviewing today. But I want to go back to the beginning, some history, because the Moulin Rouge is an actual place that inspired this. Moulin Rouge means red mill in French. It was a cabaret and outside of Paris. It was a place where kind of the upper class could come to slum it and experience a different life. It was filled with courtesans who are prostitutes with like courtly upper class clientele, dancers. It is best known as the birthplace of the modern can-can dance. Fun fact. It was founded in 1889 by Charles Zidler and Joseph Aller. It burned down in 1915 and was rebuilt in 1925. And then it is still going strong today, and you can tour it, go experience it. It recently, this past October, celebrated its 135th anniversary. So those are some little fun facts about the actual place, the red windmill that we see featured prominently in both the 2001 Baz Luhrman movie and in the marketing for this. We don't actually see the windmill in the stage production of the musical, or at least not the national tour version. I haven't seen it on Broadway myself. But based on that place, as we discussed, in 2001, Baz Luhrmann co-wrote and directed a jukebox musical movie, which, if you're not familiar, a jukebox musical is a musical that primarily takes music that exists outside of it. Popular music, pulls it in, weaves it into the story, makes it work, adapts it. Had one original song in it, which was Come What May. One of the most well-known ones, Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman sing it to each other. Through the plot line, it's this song that Christian, the young American poet that we're following throughout it, and Satine, the courtesan who is the star of the Moulin Rouge, who they have a little bit of a hidden, forbidden romance and love, that they sing to each other to know that they're experiencing these feelings and that their love is true. Original song for that movie that exists in the musical version. Rayleigh and I reviewed the movie musical. It was in the first year of the pod. It was one of the most combative ones where we had the strongest opinions on it. If you have not watched that, it's entertaining. You can go watch it. But to sum it up, I borderline hated the movie. But not because of the music, not because of the story or the plot line, but because of Baz Luhrmann's direction and his style. It just isn't my thing. The movie is very there's so many drastic tonal shifts, and his kind of editing and directorial style is not something that I really vibe with or love. Also, John Leguizamo playing Toulouse-Lautrec, who is the writer of the show and one of the main bohemians that we follow, does it with a lisp, a poor accent, and he's supposed to be a little person. And it is just, I don't love it. I don't love it. I do like some of the music. Come What May is fantastic. The Elephant Love medley song is fantastic. Your song, Ewan McGregor singing it, fantastic. So it has some fun music. Oh, and the pitch song with a spectacular, where they're trying to convince the Duke to support it in the movie version. Love it. Fun, energetic. Goes down the India route, which we don't go in here, but I'll get into that in a bit. But I did not love the movie. I rewatched it before going to the musical too. Still the same strong feelings. Harold Zidler, like, comedically singing like a virgin, and that whole scene is problematic. Santiago, the narcoleptic Argentinian in the movie, him singing Roxanne, I just don't vibe with it. I don't love it. Movie, it was its own big thing. It was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, and it won Best Production Design and Best Costume Design. So good for them. And also in 2016, BBC did a poll to rank kind of the 100 greatest movies of the 21st century. And it came out ranked 53rd on there, which would be a strong disagree from me. But people love this movie. Like, even doing some research on some of the backstory in this musical itself, I wanted to see what people were saying about the comparisons. There's a lot of people out there who like the movie version better than the stage musical version. I am not one of those people. I think that this is up there with Waitress as a musical where the stage adaptation is significantly better than the movie version. We talked about that a little bit in my Waitress review. And there's other ones like Heathers the Musical. I like Heathers the Musical way better than I like the cult classic Heathers movie. But I can understand why there's some people who like the movie version better, even if it's just liking the music of the movie version better. The stage musical now, which I'll get into the history of that in a little bit, features a lot more modern songs that I grew up with in high school and college. And so there were songs that I was excited to hear and that I connected with more. So I knew pretty much every single song from the stage musical version. But before I get too much more into that, let's talk about the stage musical. They started working on it in about 2016, like officially working on it. There was a workshop in 2017 where Aaron Tveit played Christian and Karen Olivo played Satine. It eventually premiered in July 2018 in Boston, and then in July 2019 transferred to Broadway. So the musical, I realized I didn't make note of this, but I want to give some shout outs and respect to the book writers of the musical. So the book of the musical version of Moulin Rouge is by John Logan. And it's just so good. I really enjoyed what they did with this and adapting the stage musical, making it a little bit more modern. It features a number of songs that didn't exist when the movie was released in 2001. And it is one of the, especially on like a national tour, it was one of the most impressive stagings, costume design, choreography. It was so much fun. But back to the original Broadway version. Like I said, it transferred to Broadway in July 2019. It was nominated for 14 Tony Awards and won 10 of them. It won Best Musical, Best Performance by a Leading Actor in a Musical, by Aaron Tveit won that. Danny Burstein, who played Harold Ziedler in the original Broadway one, won Best Performance by a Featured Actor. It won Best Direction of a Musical, Best Choreography, Best Orchestrations, Best Costume Design of a Musical, Best Lighting Design of a Musical, and Best Sound Design of a Musical. It won a ton. It won almost as many as Emilia Perez was nominated for at the Academy Awards this year. But lots of Tony Awards, lots of other awards for the musical itself. And so if you're not familiar, I've hinted to it some throughout it. The story of Moulin Rouge is there's an American poet, Christian, who becomes intertwined with two Bohemians. You have Toulouse-Lautrec and you have Santiago, an Argentinian, not narcoleptic in the stage musical. They end up trying to get Satine, who is, like I said, the sparkling diamond, the star of the Moulin Rouge, to become part of their play, their musical that they're writing, and help get it funded by Harold Ziedler and put on at the Moulin Rouge. And throughout this time, there is the Duke of Monmouth, who is trying to, Harold Ziedler is basically a little bit trying to pimp out Satine, you know, as a courtesan and as a dancer, get her to, what's the word I'm looking for? Get her to kind of placate and encourage and basically bet the Duke, win him over, so that he will help keep the Moulin Rouge from financial ruin. They end up writing a play, the musical they come up with on the spot in the Duke as he catches Christian and Satine during some mistaken identity, where because Satine has mistaken Christian for the Duke, and they come up with a play that's basically a play within the play of the actual play that's going on, the forbidden love, the secret romance that Christian and Satine have, keeping hidden from the Duke, because otherwise he's known to have a temper, kill people, and will ruin the Moulin Rouge and put Satine's basically family from the Moulin Rouge out on the street. So that is the overarching story of this. Now I want to get into this national tour production itself. The stage and the costumes and everything about this production screams Broadway. I have seen a number of shows. This is my second season of having season tickets, but a number of shows that it feels a little bit like a national tour production. The staging, everything they have going on with it, the set design doesn't necessarily scream Broadway. You can tell you have to scale things back for tour. That's to be expected. One highlight of that was Shrek the Musical, which I loved. The talent was great, and it was intentional, they said, but it did not seem like a Broadway caliber level production or show. I also felt that way about The Little Mermaid. Seeing that, it just didn't scream Broadway caliber. Now, Back to the Future was fantastic. And I had said in my review of that it was the best set design and one of the most impressive displays of a show that I had seen. Moulin Rouge rivals that for me. It's a different type of experience. With Back to the Future does a lot of, like I said, the technicals. They use the screen and projections and make the car fly and everything like that. This just has a really bright and vibrant look that transports you to inside the Moulin Rouge. At my performance production that I saw, the main cast is Christian Douglas plays Christian, Robert Petkoff plays Harold Zidler, Andrew Brewer is the Duke of Monmouth, Nick Rashad Burroughs is Toulouse-Lautrec, Danny Burgos is Santiago, a.k.a. Nader is Nini. So those are kind of the main ones. And then Satine, the other main star of the show, was played by the alternate, Jerica Exum, at my performance. So there are two main performers. So Satine is typically played by Ariana Rosario, but they have an alternate on this national tour. This is the first tour that I've seen where they've had an alternate. They've had someone who is designated to play Satine on certain nights. So the difference between alternate, understudy you go on if the main performer can't. An alternate is one that they have certain set days that they'll play. Now, I don't know everything that goes into it, but they're doing a 2-week run in my town, which, go see it. When this episode's coming out on the 12th, they're still in town in Lincoln, Nebraska, until the 16th. So if you're in Lincoln, I highly encourage you to go see the show. They're doing rush tickets before a lot of performances for $29 if it's not typically in your budget. Recommend you checking out. It is fantastic. There's my spoiler of it. But check out their website. They have a bunch of other productions and they're still touring the country, so there's a lot of shows left and opportunities to see them. It is a beautiful show, is fantastic, and all the performers are fantastic. Jerica Exum has a beautiful, fantastic voice and did an amazing job as Satine. So there's a couple things and main changes from the movie version to the musical that I kind of want to call out. One that I think is really funny in the movie, the play and the musical that they're creating is called Spectacular Spectacular. In the musical, it's called Bohemian Rhapsody. So a nice little fun nod from the Jukebox musical, referencing another song. Like, we have songs from The Sound of Music in there. You got songs by Elton John, David Bowie, all these things. But the stage version has a completely different vibe from the movie musical, in my opinion. The movie opens up with Toulouse singing the song Nature Boy. It's a very melancholy, vibe, starting with Satine being dead. Then it also ends on a very melancholy vibe. The stage production opens with a welcome to the Moulin Rouge montage. So you have Lady Marmalade and a lot of songs in there being sung by the dancers. It's very upbeat, a lot of spectacle and a lot of energy to open the show. It also closes with, some melancholy notes, but they have, when they go to take their final bows, just one more medley and fantastic, huge blowout number and performance that just, it's so good. I had a smile on my face the majority of this musical when it was appropriate. There's some songs that are obviously sadder, but this is maybe my favorite show that I have seen live in the couple years of going to national tours and just musical live in general. I typically prefer original music and original musicals, but how this musical flows and the music that they incorporate into it. Like I said, it was music I grew up on. It was music that speaks to me and that I know the words to and that I love and want to sing along with. It's done in such a clever way, the incorporating different pieces. Like, there are a number of laughs just from people who weren't expecting certain songs to pop up, and they did. Like, you get Single Ladies by Beyonce in there. You get Shut Up and Dance With Me by Walk the Moon. You get Raise Your Glass by Pink. Chandelier by Sia. It's just a Bad Romance by Lady Gaga, Toxic, Britney Spears, like all of these pulled into there. And then the Elephant Love medley, I actually did a couple years on the pod, maybe just a year ago now. I was talking about some of the differences between the Moulin Rouge Broadway songs and versus the stage versus the movie musical. So I did a breakdown of all the different songs that were between just Elephant Love medley. The movie version samples 10 songs. The Broadway version samples 20 different songs, which is just insane in the medley. And the Broadway musical samples 54 songs total. So lots of different ones on there. Fun fact that I had noted, the movie samples 19 different songs. So a huge increase in the songs and that are featured in the Broadway one that they pull in. Not as much of a discrepancy as I thought in the average year of release of those songs. The movie average year of release was 1978. The Broadway musical, 1988. Fun fact. So I think those are little things that just get pulled into there and that help this musical connect with me. I know there was some discourse this year of what won the Tonys, and people, was it Tonys or Academy? There was Critics' Choice about some awards that were won, and people feeling like jukebox musicals winning over original musicals kind of was a little bit of a slap in the face. I don't necessarily agree. I think to create a jukebox musical that actually works well, is fun, makes sense, and doesn't just seem random and thrown together is a very impressive feat. Now, I don't think it's necessarily more impressive than original ones, but I don't think it should discredit it or make it knocked down a peg. But I digress. Other things that are kind of different in the stage version versus the movie version is the musical Satine is given, she's a little bit more empowered and given a little bit more agency in this. And in the movie version, she's really wanting this break and to work and make things work with the Duke and make the show work, because her and Harold want to make the Moulin Rouge not just the place that it is. They want to turn it into more legitimate shows. She's not necessarily satisfied with her life at the Moulin Rouge, is the kind of vibes you get. And the musical version of Satine is satisfied with her life at the Moulin Rouge. She wants to stay there. She wants to keep being with the family around her of the performers. In the movie, there's another dancer that sells out Satine and Christian to the Duke and kind of sets things off. Instead, In the stage musical, it's more about the sisterhood, where that dancer is warning Satine of how basically crazy and much of a loose cannon and how dangerous the Duke really is, and trying to look out for her, Nini is, instead of just letting things go. Also, their play that they put on, like I said in the movie, it's spectacular, and it's about Maharaja and a sitar player and a courtesan, and there's a magical sitar in it as well. Not a thing in the stage musical. In the stage musical, it is about a prostitute, it's about a gangster, and it's about a sailor. So not quite the cultural appropriation of the movie version. So that, I will say, the show's version of the pitch, So Exciting, is not quite as energetic and not doesn't hit quite the same as the movie version of the spectacular pitch. Still a lot of fun, and like I said, less problematic is a good thing, but it just doesn't quite have that energy. I think there were a few standout songs throughout this for me. I kind of alluded to some of them. There is when Satine and Christian first meet and connect. They do a medley of Shut Up and Dance With Me and Raise Your Glass, called Shut Up and Raise Your Glass. And it's just a lot of fun as Satine and Christian are singing together, meeting, interacting. Toulouse and Santiago are distracting Harold Zidler, which Harold Zidler, fantastic. Robert Petkoff was so good. Fantastic performance throughout this. Very impressive. The Elephant Love medley is so good. So good. I like all the songs they pull into it, and it's a fantastic Act 1 finale. I don't remember if I referenced it. I know it wasn't in my top 5 in the mini episode I did a while back talking about the best Act 1 finales, but I love it. It's so well done. The choreography is so good with it. The scene changes. No notes. Act 2 opens up with a dance number and song with Santiago and Nini, one of the dancers, who are having a forbidden backstage romance as well. Well, it's not forbidden, but we're having a backstage romance. And it's a mashup of Bad Romance and Toxic. And it starts out just the two on stage and how it morphs and grows. And it's just this big, spectacular number. It blew me away. At first, I'm like, really? This is how we're opening the second act? And by the end, whoo! And some nice comedic notes there from Toulouse as he's directing the show. He gives notes throughout it. Really entertaining. I'm not going to spoil it. Go see it yourself. But there's a moment in the second act as well. A song that stood out from that. The second act is Chandelier, which is sung by Harold Zidler. And everything that's taking place during it, it's when they incorporate the famous Absinthe and Green Fairy scene from the movie in there, and it's so well done. And then Christian Douglas did an absolutely fantastic job during El Tango de Roxanne. This was one that I was a little bit nervous about, I'll be honest, because the clips of Aaron Tveit singing it are so impressive, and that was what I was accustomed to. And I'm like, well, there's no way that people are going to be able to live up to that and do as good of a performance live. So I'll probably be kind of disappointed. I wasn't. Christian Douglas absolutely nailed it. Nailed the emotion, the vocals. He sounded so fucking good. It was so impressive. One of the best vocal performances that I have seen live on these tours. Really impressive. A lot of fun. Jerica Exum really shone as well in the first act, the first kind of solo song, because the introduction song with the Sparkling Diamond, which is a mashup of, like I said, Single Ladies, Material. Was Material Girl a mashup in the stage one? I'm gonna get them confused now, but she does so well with the choreography and her vocals, but her vocals really shine during Firework, which is a solo song, and it's sung in a lot more somber way than the Katy Perry original one, but she was fantastic in it. Like I said, this entire cast So good. I'm sure Ariana Rosario is fantastic as a teen. I just can't speak to her since she wasn't performing at my performance. But I really enjoyed this show. It's one of the best I've seen, like I said, and I highly encourage you to see it. It was good enough. I debated getting tickets and going to it a second night, and I still might because it's still here for another almost week. So I don't really have much else to add. Oh, they do in the stage one something that I said in the movie version that Rayleigh tried to challenge me on, and this just vindicated me, is that it is explicitly stated that Toulouse was in love with Satine, but he was too afraid to confess his love to her because someone like him and so hideous. It doesn't work as well on the stage version when you have a very handsome tall man saying that he is hideous and so he couldn't confess his love. John Leguizamo, I would believe that he was unable to confess his love to Nicole Kidman with his very bad accent and lisp and everything he had going on. But the stage version, I'm like, really? You could have confessed your love, my guy. What are we doing? But fantastic musical, fantastic production value. This felt like Broadway. It's the closest I've felt to like I was on Broadway seeing a national tour show. All the ones I've seen, there's been some with fantastic casts, fantastic sets that the talent level feels like it's Broadway level, but the sets maybe haven't quite gotten there. This one did. This one was outstanding. A lot of fun. All this, like I said, one of the best put together jukebox musicals in my opinion. Highly encourage you to go see it if you have the opportunity to, especially with this cast and this tour. They're so good. But that's all I have to say about the Moulin Rouge. So I said I had other notes coming up, but the only things I really have were the first review of Last of Us Season 1, Episode 1. It is now out on audio platforms as well. Episode 2 will be dropping this Saturday. Those are releasing at midnight on, well, technically like Friday at midnight, so they'll be available Saturday morning, or technically Saturday. I don't know. But on our Instagram, I have the calendar of which episode's dropping when. We're going to do one a week for the next 9 weeks leading up to it. And the tentative date of the season 2 premiere is April 13th. We just know in April, that's all HBO has said, but the speculation is it's going to be the 13th. So that's coming out. And we'll be doing reviews for season 2 as well. If you feel like binging the show and you don't want to wait and listen to the reviews weekly, head over to our YouTube. YouTube, we have a playlist for The Last of Us reviews. It's got my instant thought reviews of all 9 episodes of season 1, as well as my prediction for what I think could happen in season 2 based on part 2 of the game. That one does have spoilers for part 2 of the game. If you don't want to get spoiled, you want to go into season 2 of the show blind, don't watch that episode. But not quite sure what movie we'll be reviewing this month yet, but as always, that'll be the last episode of the month, so stay tuned for that. And then in March, I've got Annie, I've got Beetlejuice coming up, and a few other shows. So stay tuned for that. Appreciate all of you sticking with us, following the pod. If you have suggestions for things you want to see, new ratings of like top 5s or drafts you want me to pull Brad or other guests into, I'm recording this on Sunday the 9th, so I'm not positive yet, but Better Man, the Robbie Williams biopic that I have sung its praises on here multiple times, supposedly is being released on digital on the 11th. So that should be available now on digital. If you haven't seen it, rent it, buy it, watch it. It's a good time. And then let me know in the comments, message me how much you agree with me and how great the movie was. Or if you really disagree with me, I don't think you will. Unless you don't want to see an R-rated biopic with a monkey snorting cocaine, or a chimpanzee, as Taylor Tomlinson referenced it. Like, who doesn't want to see that, right? But let us know what you think. As always, like, comment, share, follow, subscribe, all that stuff that I have to say that more people have been starting to do. So thank you for listening. And let us know what you want to see. Don't forget to go down once more. Later.